What's up, guys? So I'm going to be installing a 6-point bolt-in roll cage in my Mark III Supra. It is provided by Autopower, and I've already gotten started. So basically I'll run you through what's provided from Autopower and basically how to install it. I've already kind of got it going, so I'm going to be able to walk you through the basics of getting started, and then maybe you'll be able to just take it from there. If you want to watch all the way through, great. So to start, we've got our instructions. It comes with one piece of paper. But that's pretty much all you need. It's pretty much self-explanatory for the most part. So you've got your bars, you got the 6-point, you've got sleeves, 1, 2, 3, 4, that go on the corners right here. So you're gonna have a corner there, and then you're gonna have a corner right here. This part, this is the front of the 6-point. This part is gonna go in front of your windshield. So right here is where your windshield's gonna be. You know, you're gonna have your hardware connected there. This is what one of the sleeves looks like. It needs to have holes drilled once you have everything fitted, because you, of course, wanna do it right. You don't want the cage to be crooked and lopsided and things like that. So you're gonna wanna basically get the cage fitted and then put like some sleeves on it and, you know, drill some holes. So we'll get into that as we go on. So let's see how we have it in here. We've got our loop right here. We've got our loop already in. We're gonna have it pushed as far back as possible. We're gonna hook up our back bars. You can hook up the front bars first, back bars whenever. You're gonna have your back bars here. It's gonna sit flat up against that fender well, and it doesn't look like it does in the picture. Obviously you can see in the picture it's flat. What we have here is a little crooked, but that's it flush up against the back of the well. So that's where you're gonna wanna have it. I moved those around about 2 and 3 times before I could really get it fitted, but it's good to go and it looks pretty good. I'm pretty stoked about how it's fitting in there. So that's pretty much as that goes. Then we have our front of our bars right there. And then we have all of our hardware and the steel plates that go behind the hardware on the other end. So, you know, under the car and the rear of the wheel well, basically. So, and then all of your hardware, I'm gonna add some washers and stuff in here, just kind of how I do things. But you can use pretty much this, that's what they supply. And as you know, of course, moving the carpet up, I threw a bungee cord holding both of the pieces of carpet up, and then pulling that black piece of foam up on here and here. I didn't on this side, but yeah. Then you've got your windshield bar. That's what this is right here. It's gonna go in front of the windshield. And then just to show you on this side, everything's mounted up. And I got a bolt in right there as well, just to hold things. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what you need to know to get started. And yeah, there will be more. So update on the roll cage, and now update on the seat. So as you can tell, we had a roll cage placed in here, the back half of it. Now we've got our front half just kind of placed in there. Comes down here, and then it's going to connect right there at the floorboard with 3 bolts. Okay, so that's all in. That's pretty much where it needs to be. As you can tell, it fits very close, very close. It's literally touching the handle here. And then it fits very close in front of the dash. It's literally touching the plastic on this switch panel. So fits very snug, very tight. A lot of people want it to be like that. It's gonna be a little bit more safer. It was very close to my head when we had originally put the Kirkey seat in it. Now this mount is the planted mount from Drift Motion. And then we've got our Kirkey seat provided by Real Street, Kirkey cover. This is a 55, a drag 55, I think it is. No brackets on the side, the aluminum brackets, no brackets. We have it bolted directly from the bottom of the seat into the mount right here. And most people would be like, oh, well, that would be kind of like unbalanced, but no. We've got our bracket here that's connected to the back of the seat to the bar. So I've got support here. That's not going anywhere. That seat's not going anywhere. It fits pretty good. I'm gonna hop in it now and make sure my head doesn't hit the bar with my helmet on. Okay, so don't buy one of those. They're great for other seats and without having a roll cage, But if you're putting a roll cage in the car, putting the roll cage that I'm putting in the car, you want to put a kirkey seat in it, it's not going to happen. I'm 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in there, and my head hits the cage with the helmet on. And of course we don't want that. That's not super safe. So if you want a kirkey seat and this roll cage, floorboard. That's pretty much your option, floorboard. And yeah, I gotta fix that. So I gotta flatten this out and mess with it a little bit. But you're gonna have to use the kirkey plates, pretty much. You're gonna have to do exactly what they intended for you to do. Bolt these to the floorboard or to a plate, a flat plate, whatever you're supposed to do with them. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. Because that planted plate is way too high up. Take a look at it real quick. It's just way too high up. That's too much for a kirkey seat, so you're not gonna get in it. And I would trim it down, but that's also part of our problem. You know, there's not much to trim there. I mean, you can flip it over and maybe bend it a little bit, but I'm not gonna cut up this bracket. I'm just gonna bolt the kirkey brackets like it's intended to on the floor. So yeah. Okay, some follow-up progress. We've got holes drilled, bolts in. That's where it's gonna be pretty much fitted. Then we've got a hole drilled back there. I have it disconnected because we're painting the brackets that sit on the other side of the metal. But the cage is in and it looks pretty good. The toughest part was getting the kirkey seat to fit. If you've got a Mark III Supra and you're trying to get a kirkey seat to fit, I'll put the seat back in the car and we'll go over that a little bit more. So what I did was I completely scratched the whole idea of using the side brackets and the planted bracket. And we made holes here, made a notch here. It's a little opened up. We're gonna paint it, make it look a little nicer. Made a hole here. See, as you can tell, it goes straight to the floor. Made a notch here so that the seat fits a little lower here and is even on this side. See, that's where our mark is. That's where the scratch marks is from where the seat was sitting. Then there's our other hole right there. Had to notch it a little bit. We're gonna run big washers so that everything's okay, but also the seat's gonna sit over this, so it should be okay. And then our other holes right here, straight to the floor, here and here. Those are pretty simple. We're having to run a spacer, like a spacer bar, right here, so that that will fit on the seat on the bottom, and it has support, and then we've got support right there. I'm pretty short, but not short enough to where my head wouldn't hit the top part of the where the roll bar goes right here. So we had to make it super low. My eye level is like here, which is okay. It's not too bad. I could see at least over the dash, probably not over the hood. I could see basically the road that's out in front of me. But yeah, so that's all lined up and this is in, so we're getting there. So if you're planning on running stock interior, I'm gonna show you a little trick. I'm planning on running the stock interior, so right now I'm trying to measure up the hole diameter size to where I need to cut to fit the roll bar. And I've used these sleeves right here. So these are the sleeves that go over the bolt-in part of the cage. You have right there, they fit straight over it. You make holes so that you can bolt them into there. I'm using them as kind of like a mock-up. I've just put two of them together perfectly in line, and then measuring from here to here. You want to make sure those down there are bolted in. The loop bases are bolted in so that you're keeping it pretty close and tight. And then basically just mark your hole where you need it to cut, and then use, you know, your hole saw to basically make a hole perfectly for that, so that you have a nice fitting interior with your roll cage. Okay, let's hit you with an update. So, seat is in the car. It looks really good. The black kirkey seat cover, the black seat belts, and then the steering wheel, everything looks really nice. And we also painted the black, or the back, like aluminum finish, like black, so it looks really nice in there as well. I mean, that's like just minor details, you know. Gonna hook all that up. The bar is in the car. It's all bolted down. Everything is tightened down. We have our plates on the underside with nuts and washers. We did replace the hardware. The hardware it comes with, they say is fine and everything, but we went with a little bit longer hardware and a little bit stronger hardware just for safety measures and, you know, to be sure that everything worked properly. Just because the material of the bolts it's probably fine, but we went ahead and got those anyways. So that's all personal preference with that kind of thing. The back is in, and look at that. That hole is a little too far on this side, but over on that side, it looks really good. So, and that's okay. That's fine as long as the interior is in it. But like, let me get a far shot for this. But yeah, that looks pretty good. You know, there's the bar. You know, it's in there. It looks good. So basically, to do this, you have to finagle some things to get that interior piece back in. You're probably not going to get that piece in. It's part of the seatbelt, which kind of sucks. You're going to have to find something to fill that in. This you're able to pop out from the seatbelt and put back in the interior, so you could do that if you wanted to. That one was a little easier to pull through the seatbelt, kind of like piece that holds the actual buckle part, and then obviously put the screws back in and mount this back up. But this was actually really difficult to put back in because of that. You don't have a lot of clearance there to fit that in there. So what we did is we left the bolts that are behind this part back in that hole. You can see where the bolts are. We tightened that up. We loosened this bolt up so that we could slide this out, loosen those three out so that we could move this like towards this way a little bit and get just a little bit more clearance so that we could wedge that in there and then tighten everything back down, because there's no way that you're doing that without that. And then back here, there's no way you're putting this in without putting that bar flush to the fender well back there, or the wheel well back there. So that's kind of what you have to do with those. It's kind of a pain, but it looks really good. It's in there. We're gonna run it just like this. Yeah, it's the open bar for here. We're gonna run it just the 4-point back here, and then maybe some door bars for the time being, because that's gonna be a little bit easier than like a head bar. Even though I did put the seat in, and the seat location where it's at is the right adjustment to run a head bar and have enough clearance for where my helmet is resting, to where I won't hit my head on that bar if the car gets in a wreck or out of shape or anything like that. So we did clearance that good, but you have to run this seat extremely low. Like my eye level, let's check this out. Let's hop in here real quick. I still got to finish up the seat bar, everything. So this is about where my eye level is. So it's not horrible. And yeah, I know you're looking at the hood, but just kind of give it like a reference. Like I can't really see down that way. So like this is kind of where my eye level is. And I'm like I'm 5'8", I think. 5'8", 5'9", whatever. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, I think it looks pretty sick. I'm pretty stoked on it. Everything came out really well. Now the hard part, fitting the carpet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay the carpet back down. I'm gonna put the bolts, I'm gonna poke something through so I can make holes for the bolt holes of this, because this is through the floor. And then the same thing over here. Well, actually not the same. I'm gonna run the carpet over this bar. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut like small slits in the carpet right here and here, and then run it over like that. So it should fit well. I'm not gonna unbolt that or anything. And then the same thing goes for back here. I'm just gonna lay the carpet in nicely and tuck it in the crevices, because I have like a rear seat delete carpet kit. Okay, seat is back out of the car, buttoning up some things so that we can put the carpet in, and then we're gonna put the seat on top of it. I took out some of the foaming, don't really need it, don't want it, so just took it out. I left all of this, the insulation stuff that's here, bolted straight down to the ground through it. Might as well keep some of the sound out of it, whatever we gotta do. And then just kind of painted over the holes that I had, and then painted over completely this, just so nothing rusts, like nothing like exposed metal would have rust, things like that. So nothing fancy, but carpet's gonna be covering over it, so that's fine. So I failed to mention, these are power seats, so they have a harness that goes up here, up into here, into the seat. So what you can do to get rid of that, so it's not hanging out in here, since you have your fixed seat now, is basically just tuck it up into this harness holder right here. It's gonna be a little tight, so make sure you don't want to pinch too much stuff, and you want to make sure it's secure. But this is where it gets really tight, is because there's so much stuff here, because you also have your cables from these two levers right here. They run up into here. So right here fits really nice and easy, but here's where it starts to get tight, so you may have to move some things around. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a better alternative than to tucking it under the carpet here and accidentally putting like a bolt through it, or, you know, just messing it up in some way. Okay, so I may have skipped some steps, but you guys saw it all installed. Got the seat back in the car, it's mounted in there. I'm putting the seat belts in. I've mounted my belts here and here on the side for the side brackets. Those are original locations for, God, I don't even remember. That's for the bar that goes through the bracket of the factory seat. It's like the slider. And then this is probably part of the seatbelt that I can't remember. I would assume so. You can see right here, made a hole in the bottom of the floor. Had to angle it a little bit so that I could get the center belt through this and get it as straight as I possibly could. That's what that kind of looks like. It's a little angled, but once it's bolted up, it'll be okay. But you can't go straight through the floor when the seat is in this exact position that I have. If you see the factory hole, it's slightly over from that. So the way that this seat is, right here directly in the middle, is the frame rail. I'm not gonna drill through that. So I'm just right next to it. So, yep, got my hardware in there, bolted underneath. Probably could use smaller, shorter hardware, but that's okay. So yeah, the seat is back in. Now let's talk about the interior. I made this out of a 6x6 from a carpet company. Tried to get it as matched as possible. This is the correct color, but this carpet's faded over time, and you know how that goes. So that's as close as possible. What I did is I kind of just cut it around the roll bar. I'm still kind of tucking this in. But yeah, I mean, it's fitted pretty decently. I could definitely staple it down or tape it or like adhese it down to get it a better like flush finish. This is really snug and hard to get in there because of the roll bar, but you can do it. It is possible in this car. Obviously, somebody who does roll cages for a living and does interior work would do a way better job, but I gotta say, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. I think I did pretty good for, you know, what I'm working with and things like that and the time frame. So not too bad. So I failed to mention how we bolted the seat down to the car when installing the roll cage and everything. So I wanted to show you guys real quick. So if I pull this up, our padding and foam, you can see the bolt here and bolt here, as well as the bolt there and a bolt there, just kind of in the corners and marked up to fit right about there. You can see the bolt coming through there, and another one is in this corner. You might have to do a little bit of trimming in that corner, as I showed you. And then on the back side, what I failed to mention was the spacers that were needed back here. So we used two billet aluminum pieces to space the seat from the ground and to space the seat from the ground, so it wasn't directly on the floor and I wasn't super leaned back. So, and it gives me a little bit better posture, a little bit better seating position. So that was it. That's all I failed to mention. If you have any questions, just drop them down in the comments. I got no problem answering any questions on the setup for the seat, the roll bar, anything about the car. Thanks for watching.
That doesn't make sense.